The chief's husband, male?
Yeah, because the chief at that time was a female.
Okay.
And her husband was a, Nathan, hint.
Had a penis.
He was a male.
There you go.
So it was Halloween night in Salem, Mass. A lot of drunk people. Halloween's pretty crazy in Salem, Mass, home of the witches.
Oh, it is.
So they had a guy he wasn't under arrest, but he was in protective custody because he was drunk. And the chief's husband, whatever happened in the booking room, there was some sexual play happening. And then there was a proposition. And the police officer, the chief's husband, took the person who was in protective custody and drunk into a broom closet and provided oral sex on him.
On him?
Yeah, is that what it was? It's one or the other, but there was oral sex happening.
Okay, so it was on him or to her?
No, it was two guys having oral sex. It was two guys.
Then it was on him, yeah. All right.
Good for them. Cops are so progressive. Good for them.
So obviously he went to trial. He was fired. He went to trial and he was charged with, rape, sexual assault, and he got 3 to 5 years in state prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it wasn't consensual.
It wasn't
consensual because the person was.
Well, first of all, you really can't consent if you're intoxicated, regardless of your age.
Okay.
So if you're highly intoxicated, then consent pretty much goes out the window.
Wow. But here's the next part of it. If you're in that circumstance where you're in the broom closet drunk, and this happens, do you really want to go through the trial?
Well, Dave, cha-ching, cha-ching. There's a lot of money to be made on that one if you sue the city and the police department. I'm sure there was some sort of a settlement outside of court.
And this was a cop that did it?
Police officer working. He was the booking officer. He was working in the station. So when prisoners come in...
Must have been one good-looking drunk. Here's another one from the San Antonio Police again. What a fun place that is. But police responded to a call at a mall nearly 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, and Stephanie Solis, 40 years old, she had $500 in stolen perfume from a store inside the mall.
There's a little kicker here, Dave.
And then
she's a cop.
Yeah.
She's a San Antonio cop, and we got the audio on this one, too.
All right, let's listen to the audio.
Her biggest mistake was that she admitted to being a cop, but then she had her gun, so that might, she thought she was going to get out of trouble.
Yeah, it sounded like she thought she was going to talk her way out of it. Tough one to walk back from.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would think, obviously, the way that was handled by security, I think maybe if she wasn't belligerent, maybe if her gun didn't fall out, maybe if she just went back and admitted to it, they might have cut her a break.
Was she kind of messed up on pills at the time?
Yeah, I think as the story goes, and I was following the story for a while, she had some drugs on her. She was involved in another drug issue out a different part of Texas in which she was a suspect in drug distribution, and she was arrested with some drugs on her. So ultimately, she never did time in jail. She admitted to some of the drug charges. The shoplifting was dropped, but she resigned from the police department. And there's a little thing in most police departments that if you have a drug or alcohol issues, as long as you don't kill anyone in a car accident, but let's say you were arrested.
Right. Yeah, they try to
help you out and get you some counseling, but ultimately you're going to be either fired if you don't resign. Most people will resign because you don't want to be fired.
Even if you go into counseling for your drug, you can't go to rehab and then come back and have your job?
There are instances, and it's usually with alcohol, because in most states, drugs are going to be illegal.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Other than marijuana, drugs are illegal, whether they're prescription drugs, especially if they're not yours. They're going to be illegal. You're going to get arrested. You're going to be charged. So that it's that criminal charge that's hard to overlook. But with alcohol, there's a shot.
Let me ask you this question. First of all, let me ask this for Nathan. Nathan,
yes.
When you go to shoplift,
yes,
do you take your gun? That was the thing that
if I'm shoplifting, if I have a good day, then I'm going to enter a store without a gun and I'm going to leave with like 3. It's usually when I go to Walmart.
I was going to say, where do you shoplift? Walmart. Okay.
Walmart, because that's just practically free. No one gives a shit about fucking Walmart.
Oh, that's a good point. Good point. Excellent point. I'm not sure if Walmart would agree with you, but and let me ask you this, Dale. When you have, in your experience with shoplifters, am I correct to say there were kind of 2 things with shoplifters? One is people who've got drug issues.
Yep.
And usually pills or something.
They're shoplifting and they're going to sell the items either to a friend or online or at a pawn shop.
They need money, or they feel they need money to buy more drugs. Okay. Or there's just a compulsion. Like a compulsion to walk on the wild side a little bit and do something a little bit crazy. Yep. It's those two. Those are the two.
You get that too. Then you have maybe the third variable, which isn't as common. You could have a single mother who's down on her luck, and she could be in there stealing clothes or infamil or stuff like that. But every case is going to be individual. What you would do is you'd run the history of the person, their criminal history, and you'd see what their history says. If they got 4 or 5 shoplifting charges or bad check charges or drug charges, then you know that they're shoplifting to support their habit. And you're probably not going to give them a break. Yeah. But if you get a mother and she's crying and she tells you that story and she's 22 years old and she might be living in a shelter and she's never been arrested, then you might cut her a break.
Then you bring her into a broom closet.
Yeah. See if she can talk her way out of it.
Let me ask you this, but you don't find anyone whose drug of choice as a shoplifter is weed, or do you?
No. Weed is...
Nathan.
Nathan's a big weed guy. Go ahead, Nathan.
What's up, Dave?
When you get all, what's the word?
Weeded out.
Crazy on weed.
Yeah, crazy, sure.
Crazy on weed. Do you go out shoplifting, or do you just stay home and look at your navel?
I think about shoplifting, but by that time, I've already lulled myself to sleep.
What if there was candy bars at the store?
There were candy bars? Oh, I'm stuffing them all down my pants. They don't stop you. People don't stop shoplifters anymore. They're all insured. They don't give a shit.
Of course they do.
Who cares?
Of course they do.
If you read the news lately, they're just a random spree. People are just ripping this whole country apart.
There does seem to be a whole thing. But then again,
these stores are insured. You fucking what? You get paid $10 an hour at the fucking mall. You're gonna risk your life for some asshole stealing fucking perfume?
I know
you don't get paid enough.
I know people who work those jobs, and I agree with you. And I think maybe they agree with you, but there are people that work that job, and usually they're people who want to go into law enforcement, but they get that part-time job as they work their way through.
Well, hopefully they're not watching our podcast, because Nathan could have just scared them away. Say you're sorry, please, Nathan. I'm sorry.
No, fuck that.
Oh, yeah, you got another story for us?
Well, in regards to that, what I've seen in law enforcement in regards to maybe cops doing that, like I said, a cop with an alcohol issue will get help, and as long as he or she can keep their shit together, they'll stay in the department. But with the drug issue, what you see with drugs is you can go to a call and it's a big drug house. And if your hands are a little sticky, you might grab some of the drugs, whether it be cocaine, PCP, whatever it is. Yeah. Or if you're in the evidence room and you see a couple of joints laying around, you might put them in your pocket. So if you got caught doing that, yeah, you're going to definitely get fired. You probably get charged.
Okay.
Something like that. And I've seen that, but very rare.
From the evidence room.
Well, the evidence room, or just a police officer going to another town, scoring some drugs, and they get caught in a drug sting, and then that department calls and says, hey, one of your officers was just arrested in our town for buying some cocaine or some pills. Yeah, something like that.
You know guys who've been
I know of people. I know of people.
You know of cops.
Absolutely, I know of cops.
All right. In the old days, the old thing, the cops would go down to, the street that you all went drinking, and, they come to bust up your party. They take your beer. Yeah. They take your weed. That stuff goes on.
That's all going to be relative to the cop on scene, how comfortable he or she is with doing that.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
About evidence rooms. How long does, let's say there's a bag of, crack that gets picked up from a house raid.
Why are you thinking of
crack? Wait. I'm just saying, it could be any drug, but I just said crack. But that gets picked up and it gets put in the evidence. Does it just stay there, or how long do you need it in there for?
It will stay there as long as the case is active. If the case is still open.
Okay, and when the case is over, what happens?
Usually a couple of times a year, the officer in charge of the evidence room, specifically the drugs, will take the drugs to the state police lab, and they'll burn them all.
Okay.
Now, between there and him getting there, now could he run into his buddy and sell some on the side of the highway?
What I'm thinking is when you like have this stuff in the evidence room and you don't need it anymore, whether it be weapons or drugs, I think you guys should hold a raffle. And just to because it's a waste. It'd be a waste.
Well, if you're a drug user, it is a waste.
Well, it would be, but there is that issue of legality. I know with other things, they auction.
They auction off bikes.
They auction off stuff that is legal. They don't auction off guns.
No, they auction off bikes. I got a funny bike story.
What's that?
It's kind of funny. It was during the pandemic, so
we'll be the judge of how funny.
I think it's funny because a guy was arrested. We don't know where his bike went, but at some point, someone brought a bike in, and I guess it was the arrested guy's bike. So a couple of days later, we have this bike hanging around, and there was no name on it. A guy calls and says, hey, it's a COVID. About a year and a half ago, he went to like Walmart to buy a bike. There's no bikes. Everyone was out exercising on bikes. I said, well, hey, we got a bike. It just came in the other day. There's no name on it. It's a nice mountain bike.
A guy called like a
father calls the station. He wants a bike for his kid. And he gets me on the phone. And I said, come to the station. There's a bike that's just hanging around the station.
Okay.
So I gave him the bike. It's a nice mountain bike. I gave it to him, and I said, hey, you go have your kid. Have a nice time. 2 days later, the guy who got arrested was looking for his bike. And I go, what type of bike is it? He goes, well, it's a black mountain bike like a mongoose. And I'm saying, no, not here. So I call the guy, I say, hey, brother, you can keep that bike, but if you see a guy, a homeless guy, and your kid's riding his bike in the downtown area, and a homeless guy yells to your 15-year-old kid, that's my bike. It is his bike, and tell him to keep on going.
All right, and they kept the bike.
Yeah, they kept the bike.
They kept the bike. And they painted
He'll steal another bike. The homeless guy will steal another bike somewhere.
You think? Yeah, good point.
Why not?
Good point. I love this case. The next case, I love this case. Was it a simple medical aid, or did it turn out to be attempted murder? Explain this one, Dale.
Before we get to the actual meat of the case, there's another case I want to bring up, because what happens is a lot of times you can go on a medical aid call. So the call I'm talking about right now, just to give you a brief explanation, we got a call around 5 a.m. for a man who was unresponsive on the sidewalk.
Okay.
All right, so the guys show up and he's dead. It rained the night before. You got to follow this. It rained the night before, so any blood that would have been there from him falling on his face and dying was gone.
Okay.
So the guys on scene are like, well, we know this guy. He's a local, not a homeless person, but he's known to drink every single night to where he can barely walk home, walk down the street where he was found, and go to his house.
Wow.
So they got there. They think that's what happened. He was drunk, he fell on his face, and died.
Yep.
However, unbeknownst to the cops, we get a call a few hours later. They had already taken the guy's body. They brought it to the medical examiner's office just to be sure, because he was in his 50s, and nothing was suspicious at the scene. But a lady calls and says, hey, the guy you found on the side of the street? The word on the street is that 3 or 4 kids beat him to death. And that's why he was there.
So there was nothing suspicious on the scene,
because
like bruising.
All the blood that would have came out of his head, because he had like a hole in his head.
Yeah, but you bruise.
But
he had a hole in his head.
Yeah, because they kicked him, and they thought the hole was from him falling on the concrete.
Okay.
All the blood was gone because it rained the night before. It was all washed away.
All right.
So they thought it was a simple medical aid.
Let me ask you this. When people call the police station, do they actually say, hey, word on the street?
She said, word. I was right there when the guy took the call.
Did she call him Copper? Hey, Copper.
She goes, I want to be anonymous, and word on the street is these 3 kids were at this house, and they walked out and saw the guy, and they beat him up for his money, and they killed him.
So she named the kids?
She named the house with one of the kids, and then it was up to the cops to figure it out.
Okay.
Little did she know that we had the new enhanced 911 system. She wanted to be anonymous, but her name and her phone number came up on the computer screen. So
I want to be anonymous. That's no problem, Miss Jones.
So that was my first indoctrination to medical aid calls.
Yeah.
That can go bad.
So you've got to pay attention.
You absolutely so. I'm gonna. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
But were these guys paying attention to this medical aid?
I think they were paying attention, but you can only deal with what you see.
Okay.
If they had showed up and it hadn't rain the night before, and they see this guy lying in a pool of blood.
This sounds like a
different scenario.
This sounds like a scene from CSI.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You don't notice there's a hair. There's a hair right here. It's not gray. It's white. It's from another person.
Speaking about another, I have another case, but I'm gonna play a little